Okay,
Okay. My name is Joe Bingham from Hattiesburg, Mississippi. I got started in 2010. Now, my mother did a lot of sewing and made a lot of my clothes and all back then, but I didn't know how to quilt. I didn't know how to sew, really. And my wife, which probably could have been nominated for this, had been with the Quilt Guild for a number of years. And she was working on a military quilt that we were going to give to the daughter of our Bible study group. And I told her, I said, well, I need to learn how to do something. Let me at least help with this quilt. And I did. I did a little work on it, and it all started from that. She kept after me for years to be a quilter, do quilting, because I'm a draftsman, and everything is precise with the work I did, because I did it by computer toward the end. Always working day and night, kind of, just too busy. So basically, I really didn't get started until I retired, and joined the quilt. Like I said, my first quilt working with her was in 2010. Then I joined the Pineville Quilters in 2011. And I got into making the children's quilts. I've probably made over 1,000 children's quilts since that time. I would go in a lot of times taking from 10 to 30 quilts at our meetings. Basically what I did, I wake up in the morning and it's just like a job. I just started quilting and working. And my wife kept saying, a lot of times, when are we going to bed? A lot of times it's 12 o'clock at night. And all. But then I got into doing some Hoffman's Challenge quilts. I had gone into a quilt show, and right when I first started, I saw where they had some of the quilts, Hoffman Challenge quilts, showing, and I looked at it and I said, I can do that. And she looked at me kind of quizzed. What? I said, I can do that. So I decided to do my first Hoffman Challenge quilt in 2011. And she said, well, if you're going to send one in, then I'm going to send one in. So she did one. I did my first one, is work with a strip. It was a part of the design that's Frank Lloyd Wright Wonder Design. And I used it, and it had a lot of diagonals and all in it. I did that, and my wife did hers out of reverse applique of a dragonfly. And we sent them in, and then that year, there was only 3 from the state of Mississippi that were selected to travel for a year. That was mine, my wife's, and one lady from Madison. And we did that, and what I managed to do is, I started in 11, and I finally quit doing Hoffman Challenge quilts, sending them in 2016. Everything had changed tremendously, because it started out that you were sending the quilts in. The reason I'm going through all this is part of my quilt. You were sending your quilts in to be judged by the quilt, the workmanship. You had certain sizes, and you had to use certain fabrics. And then it got to where they started taking pictures and sending pictures in to be judged, your quilts to be judged from pictures of whether they would travel or not. It's just not worth it. And then we did some in Hattiesburg about that time that I looked at it, and a lot of the quilts that they sent in that was for the quilt show didn't meet the criteria as far as size and workmanship. So we decided to quit and stop. But we had taken in, which my wife, when I was doing the quilts, she was doing one. And we would order the fabric and then coordinating fabric with it and all. And when you send it in, you always got back a button that you had travel, You also got a lot of times at least 2 fat quarters in with it. Plus, you could get the magazine that had all the quilts that traveled that year. Well, toward the end, the last ones I sent in, I didn't get the button, I did not get the magazine, or anything. It was just, they had changed to coordinators to, actually a Hoffman coordinator, and she would just let somebody else do it. It just was not working. The quilt that we did, this is something, we had a lot of, we kept our Hoffman fabric separated and all in the drawer. And my wife decided, well, let's do this, and started making the squares and all, using the wedding fabric for the back, and then sew your fabric to the wedding cloth. And that way you didn't have to remove it like a paper piece and just, you didn't remove the paper, you just washed it just like it was. Well, she started it and then passed away before we got through with it. So she made a few of the squares. After her passing, I finished it up, made the rest of the squares, and then made the back. The back out of a lot of the fabric that was left over from it, and then from what fat quarters we got. I ended up sending in 9 quilts. A lot of the years, every quilt I did and sent in, all of them traveled except for 2. That year I did 4. Only 2 was accepted. But most of the years I did at least 2 quilts a lot of times, 1 to 2 quilts. She did several and traveled. She traveled several times with a lot of them. But that is what we did it from Ghost of Hoffman Past. This is all the fabric. Only fabric that's not Hoffman is the black, the sashing. Everything else, like I said, with the back and all, including the binding, is all Hoffman fabric. I do appreciate the honor of being a legacy quilter. And like I said, I just about think my wife could have just about done it, but I think Linda Hudson kept after me, at least tell me, what all do you do? Well, we do quite a bit with like I said, making over 1,000 quilts since I started. We do walker totes, the Catherine back covers, mother pads, and little, dang, I might have lost the word. We do small quilts we give out, that is basically, we started it when we carried some of the chip quilts up to the department, the hospitals and all, and they said, we need something like this for the mothers and all. That is what I'm talking about is what thing, we call it receiving blanks. I get the word right in a minute, I just had to pass it. That the lady said we could use some of this for the people the mothers that come up here and lose their baby, and all they have to go back home with is a washcloth they use to dry the tears. So we started making small blankets where they could have something they could go home with. Thank you.